This Impact Wrestling review was brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Try it and win hundreds of millions of dollars in the state lottery. If the first Impact of 2013 was any indication of where the product is going in the next year, I have to admit I'm a little concerned. I was getting frustrated with all the filler we've been getting for the past several weeks, and now that the holidays are over, they did finally progress some storylines, but I'm having a hard time getting back into them now. I'm not sure how else to put it, so let's just start at the beginning. They announced the winner of Best Wrestler of 2012 as voted on by the fans. The nominees were Bobby Roode, James Storm, Austin Aries, Bully Ray, and Jeff Hardy. And all those other guys arguably had a better claim to this award than Hardy did. But, of course, Hardy wins. Why? Because he's Jeff Hardy. The whole thing's a popularity contest. I didn't like it, but they were just using it to push a storyline, so it is what it is. Aries and Roode are both pissed off. They both thought they should have been named Wrestler of the Year instead of Hardy, and they're both right, by the way. There's some bickering back and forth, and then Hardy makes a triple threat world title match for Genesis, because Hardy has the power to book matches now, apparently. Your guess is as good as mine on that one. This exchange was fine. Aries and Roode were both much better on the mic than Hardy was, not shockingly, but it wasn't a bad segment by any means. At least they finally announced a match for Genesis. Wasn't perfect, but it was not even close to the worst thing that happened on this show. Bad Influence have another hilarious backstage segment, and this leads to a match between Kaz and James Storm. It's really good, albeit short. Storm wins, and I assume it'll be Storm versus Daniels at the pay-per-view. The booking of Bad Influence is really confusing me right now. They're one of the most entertaining acts in the company, bar none. They're usually in a prominent role on the show, and yet they're constantly losing. It's like TNA know these guys are gold, but they don't want to get behind them completely. I don't understand it.
You people are fools!
Doc of the Aces and Eights cuts a promo, and I really hope this was not an accurate representation of Doc's mic skills, because if it was, I'm going to be even more bored by this guy than I am already, much like the rest of his cronies.
This alleged superstar is an unworthy opponent.
He cuts a generic tough guy promo that you could pretty much cut and paste onto any other tough guy in the industry. And with this being 1-3-13, he tells Sting to get his ass out there, and he repeats this like 20 times. Then a baseball bat drops out of the rafters, and Doc immediately wets his pants in fear. Okay, you see, TNA, stuff like this is why no one takes the Aces and Eights seriously anymore. They're not a threat of any kind. Not to anyone. Not if you can get under their skin this easily. More on that later. They're doing an X Division tournament. Okay, cool. Good to see them doing something with the X Division other than just champion versus challenger. They do Christian York versus Kid Cash. The match was not the best. York was having an off night. But he wins, and he'll probably face Kenny King in the finals. That's okay. I would have preferred they put Sanjay Dutt in this spot, but I guess he didn't get a contract, which is kind of a shame. Matt Morgan and Hernandez are supposed to have a match, because apparently their two teams are fighting for the tag titles again at Genesis. But if that's the case, then why were Los Stereotypicos fighting Bad Influence last week? I don't know. Morgan fakes an injury, Joey Ryan takes his place in the match, only for Morgan to jump into the ring and take out Hernandez and Chavo very quickly and easily. Pretty short segment, and that's fine with me. Los Stereotypicos do absolutely nothing for me, so to see the heels make them look like jackasses like this was fun. Even though it doesn't do very much for Morgan's standing as a supposed badass if he has to resort to underhanded stuff like this instead of just plowing through people. By the way, am I the only one who finds it really ironic that Bad Influence and Ryan Morgan are infinitely more interesting and more entertaining, and the writers obviously know it? And yet Chavo and Hernandez are the ones walking around with the tag team titles?
Nobody cares about you guys.
Then came a segment that I really didn't know what to make of. I'm afraid this Hogan Bully Brook thing is beginning to descend to a level where even Bully Ray can't save it. Hogan is still angry and irrational about his daughter joining the Mile High Club with Bully Ray, and... I hated this segment so much. From what we've been led to believe, WWE promos are 100% scripted, whereas in TNA, the talent has more freedom to improvise and put talking segments in their own words. In a lot of ways, this is good, because you tend to get more personality out of the wrestlers. But in some cases, having a promo scripted by a writer is a better way to go, because the writer has a clearer idea of what needs to be said, how it needs to be said, and can do a better job of getting the point across than a wrestler can by putting something in his own words. Reference Hulk Hogan. Hogan is one of these guys where sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes, if he has too much creative freedom to say what he wants, he'll just start rambling and goes to a place where he becomes borderline incomprehensible. Case in point, this segment. He's hashing out this situation with Bully Ray for the 100th time, and he's talking and talking and talking, and I swear to God, I had no idea what the hell he was saying. He's talking about ethics and politics and breaking some kind of code that we've never heard of before. None of it's making any sense. I don't know where he's going with this. All I can think about is why I'm watching Bully Ray, of all people, let Hulk Hogan, of all people, ream him out over an issue of backstage politics. What the fuck?
This whole show is ridiculous!
Let's be clear about this, okay? They're both consenting grown-ass adults. Hell, Brook has got to be close to 30 years old, and she's not his boss. This is not about Bully Ray breaking some kind of poorly defined code of ethics. It's about Hogan being a petulant, overprotective dick who can't get over the fact that now Bully Ray is the only man who's allowed to rub suntan lotion on his daughter's ass. And that's just fucking creepy.
You're nothing but a selfish prick!
And then Hogan proves this by suspending both of them. Not because of their job performance, but just because he's butthurt that they have a personal relationship and didn't bother to tell him. As if it was any of his fucking business in the first place.
You could have done the right thing! But you didn't have the balls!
Oh yeah, that's just perfect! Suspending Bully Ray, one of the MVPs of your company right now, who's been carrying this show on his back for months. Great idea, Hogan. I'm sure that'll work out real well.
You can take this microphone and shove it up your ass.
They have a knockout tag team match, Mickey and Tessmacher versus Gale and Tara. You know what? This was really good. I enjoyed this match a lot. But what the hell is going on with Jesse Goddard? Good God. I mean, once again, he's just interfering in the match whenever the hell he pleases, and once again, the referee does absolutely nothing about it. What does this guy have to do to get ejected from ringside? Does he have to stab someone? So that's still really irritating. But nevertheless, I thought this was one of the best knockout matches we've seen in a while. Not surprising, because you had your 4 best knockouts in there, and they got a lot of time too. You know, some people said it went too long. I didn't think so. I mean, I can sort of understand how people would think that, since there wasn't much of a story attached to it. I think the idea was that Mickey was jockeying for another title shot, but they could have made that clearer. And yeah, it went longer than it needed to, I guess, but it was a really good women's match. I liked that it got a lot of time. It was refreshing to see the knockouts get some real attention for a change, especially when it involves some of the women that have been off TV for a while. Yes! Something I'm wondering about, though. Is anyone else confused about what's going on with Velvet Sky? They made a big deal out of bringing her back. They threw a pay-per-view title match under the bus just so they could put over her return. And since then, she's done practically nothing. I think she's appeared like twice, and that's it. They go to a lot of trouble to re-sign her, make a huge fuss about it, and then do nothing with her. I'm not complaining, mind you. I'm actually happy about this, but it's weird, isn't it? I don't know what's going on with that. Speaking of weird, good lord, I have no damn clue what TNA's thought process is with this Aces and Eights angle right now. I seriously think that on this show, we finally witnessed the Aces and Eights storyline collapse under the weight of its own stupidity. They have this cage match with Angle and Joe, and they know Sting is lurking around the place somewhere. And these three men have made it crystal clear that their goal tonight is to unmask someone. And this idea terrifies the Aces and Eights because, according to them, anonymity is power. Which I don't understand at all. I mean, what on earth were Devon and Doc doing before they were unmasked that they haven't been able to do since they've been unmasked? Nothing, really. I'm sorry, but I'm calling bullshit on this. So, the Aces and Eights don't want to be unmasked. And they know that Angle, Joe, and Sting will be trying to unmask someone tonight. But they have two members that have already been unmasked. So, doesn't simple common sense tell us that they'd put Devon and Doc in this match, thus eliminating the threat of another one of their members being unmasked? You'd think so. I imagine that would be the smart thing to do. But apparently not, because the Aces and Eights put the Armbreaker in there instead of Doc. The Armbreaker, who has not yet been unmasked. So, not only are the Aces and Eights completely incapable of winning matches anymore, now on top of that, they're also really stupid.
You guys suck.
And well, wouldn't you know it, guys? The Armbreaker gets unmasked. What are the fucking odds?
I will not participate in this charade this evening.
I didn't think it was possible for the Aces and Eights to be neutered any more than they were. But they have Doc try to keep Angle out of the cage. Meanwhile, Samoa Joe practically beats Devon in the Armbreaker by himself. Then Angle takes out Doc, he gets in there, the Faces win easily, the rest of the Aces and Eights try to beat them down because that seems to be the only thing they're good for anymore, and then Sting appears and casually strolls down to the ring, hops into the cage, and obliterates every single one of these jobbers single-handedly. You know, something tells me that the TNA writers have been watching a lot of old WCW tapes from the late 1990s recently. Call it a hunch. Then they unmask the Armbreaker, and it's Mike Knox, which everyone pretty much already knew about like 5 months ago. Whoopee.
Of all the greats I have studied, I assure you I have never heard of that man.
Am I excited about Mike Knox? No, not at all. Just like Luke Gallows, he's another guy that I never really saw anything in the first place. And he's done nothing to change my mind since TNA brought him in. Frankly, I'd much rather they just bring Crimson back from developmental. And before you say anything about me bitching for the sake of bitching, yes, I wanted the writers to unmask these clowns. I'm happy this happened. We're now one step closer to getting this crap storyline done with. My problem is with how it happened. There were so many ways you could have done this without having these guys that are supposed to be your top heel faction looking like complete jackasses. Yes, the Aces and Eights have probably been ruined beyond any writer's ability to save them, and booking them more strongly won't change that at this point. But if that's the case, then why are we still continuing with this? Isn't it about damn time we just took this faction out behind the barn and shot it in the head? I'm just saying. There were some things I liked about this episode, but for the most part I didn't care for this one. They had a big jump in viewership, so obviously someone disagrees with me, but there's no buzz, there's no real excitement about the product right now. The main storylines are just weighing the show down in my opinion. I'm not on board with the Bully Ray Brook thing anymore, and as for the Aces and Eights, just fucking end it. They did at least get some kind of movement on that one this week. Thank you. Now please, just unmask the rest of these jobbers and tell us who the president is. No, it's still not me. Hashtag innocent. So we can all just move on to something interesting already. Bank statements, financial records, Alright, asshole. Let's see where the money leads us.